With this video number 5, we are essentially looking at what to do when you find yourself in a sticky situation. First and foremost, I want to clear a couple of things up. Number one, being in a sticky situation does not mean that you have done anything wrong. It means that you have found yourself in a gray area where the way out doesn't look very clear. I really want to highlight some of the key messages that I heard from the folks I interviewed for this project. These are their words to the question, what is it that you want the viewers of this video to know? First and foremost, know that you are not solely responsible for fixing anything. I'm going to say that one more time. You are not solely responsible for fixing anything. Multiple eyes, multiple perspectives. There are people out there to support you. You are not alone. And you need to we want you to hear that. You're not alone. It's important that you reach out and find somebody that you trust to talk to. Ideally, this will be your supervisor, but we all know that that doesn't always happen. Regardless, you need to find somebody that you feel that you can trust and be open and honest with regarding the situation. The last point that we really want you to hear and that we're going to spend some time on is recognizing that self-compassion and self-care are essential. Let me break down these two words for you. Self-compassion. By self-compassion, I mean that you extend the same grace, understanding, forgiveness, kindness that you would extend to a colleague to yourself. Often our inner critic can get really busy twisting and turning things in our head, and we find ourselves in a place of shame and just down in a dark dungeon. We say things to ourselves that we would never say to somebody else. So you're encouraged to show yourself self-compassion and use the same language and self-talk that you would use with a colleague. Self-care is similar and just a little bit different. Self-care is making sure that you're taking care of your physical, emotional, social, and spiritual needs. Ethical dilemmas are sticky. They can be highly emotional. They can be high stakes. And as such, it's important that you're the best that you can be. Ensuring that you have time away from work is really important. Maintaining that work-life balance is essential, and at times ethical dilemmas can feel all-encompassing. Other things we want you to know when you find yourself in an ethical dilemma. Record keeping. It is so essential. I know you've heard a million times, document, document, document. Well, here it is again. Document yourself. Document your experiences. It protects yourself and everybody else involved in the situation. Having notes about what happened and when it happened is really important. Trust me when I say a decision made yesterday can look very different than it does today or tomorrow. By having documents in place, you can show what information you had at the time with what information you had when you made the decision. For myself, in personal experience, I made a decision in September. I wrote everything down. And in April, my decision looked really wrong. Beyond wrong, it actually looked negligent. The thing was that policies had changed in the new year, and the decision that I made did not reflect the new policy changes. So thankfully, I had the notes that we could look back to, because I myself was questioning, how did I make this decision? I made it with a different set of information. So documenting anytime you make a high-stakes decision is important. And it's not just about protecting yourself, but in some ways it is. But it's also just about being clear what information you had at the time. For me, when I make a decision, I document what the question was I needed to make, who I consulted, what resources I consulted, what the decision was, what my intention was to evaluate it, and then to follow up and provide the feedback that I got afterwards into that decision-making document. So yes, I do have a binder on my desk of decisions that I've needed to make over the years. Part of taking care of yourself and getting help in a difficult situation is asking for feedback. Again, from firsthand experience, I know how difficult that can be, especially when you're feeling vulnerable. Here are some key points I want you to think about. Recognize your vulnerability and how difficult it is to ask for feedback. And recognize how essential that the feedback is to your own personal and professional growth. Again, speaking from experience, being on the wrong side of the line can highlight gaps in things like agency training and policy. So there are times when I've been asked, where I find myself maybe on the wrong side of the line of an ethical dilemma, and instead of getting in trouble for it per se, the feedback to me was, wow, if you don't know this, how many other people don't know this? And it became a case example and something that got implemented into future training. So it's difficult, the last line there, it's not necessarily personal, the feedback. Actually, it rarely is. The challenge is that we feel vulnerable, we feel compelled to act, we feel responsible and like the decisions on us, and we take things personally. We wouldn't be good at our jobs if we didn't. And there are times when taking things personally isn't helpful, and this is one of those times. So in whatever way that you can, I encourage you to do your best to solicit feedback and take it in with an open heart and an open mind the best you can. One of the other feedback from the folks participating in the research for this video presentation talked about agency supports and resources available to you. So as I just mentioned, ethical dilemmas can leave us feeling vulnerable, feedback can leave us feeling vulnerable, and sometimes it's okay and appropriate to look for external help. Check in with your agencies. Some of the agencies I spoke with had a 24-hour helpline that you could call and talk to somebody immediately. Some agencies had funding available for counseling dollars if there was something that came up and you wanted an external set of eyes and some extra resource for yourself. I wanted to share this poem by John Green. It's entitled, "It Matters." Maybe there's something you're afraid to say, or someone you're afraid to love, or somewhere you're afraid to go. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt because it matters. So recognizing that when we're in these ethical dilemmas, it can evoke, again, feelings of vulnerability. And in order to protect ourselves, it may be intuitive to try to shut those feelings down. And instead, I invite you to open up to those feelings and to recognize it does hurt. And it hurts, in John's words, because it matters. The last point I would like to emphasize in this video on how we take care of ourselves and where to get help is recognizing there's times to move forward. Moving forward can look like repairing ruptured relationships and building new relationships. At times, it also means letting go. There may be nothing you can do to fix the situation, and I want to make sure you hear it from me. That's okay. I want to thank you for your time and consideration for the content in these videos. Please know that you're welcome to go back at any time and review any video more than once if it's helpful. Also know that your feedback is most welcome and appreciated. In closing, I'd like to offer a small blessing. May you and those you care about be peaceful with whatever is happening. May you and those you care for live with ease and trust in the wisdom that arises.